As I said, my name is Mike. What I'm doing is basically kind of reviewing what's happened in the video game space for the last year. Normally it would be from one CGDC to another, but since we're starting at this time, I'm going to start at 2014 so we don't miss anything. Before I get started, I want to kind of do a quick straw poll to see where we're at in terms of kind of knowledge of our game space. Just curious, how many Christian video game studios are there in the world, do you guys think? The way I'm going to do this, I'll have you raise hands. If you think there's at least 10, put up your hands. Okay? Most people have their hands up. Okay, that's great. 15. If you think there's 15, keep your hands up. Otherwise, if you think there's less, put them down. Okay, good. 20. 20. No, I'm talking about studios that have active games, active projects. Now, I'm not talking about studios that have defunct, like Rebel Planet or that kind of thing, but actively in the world working. Okay, all right. 25. Wow. Okay, still quite a few hands up. That's good. All right. 30. Still a lot of hands up. Okay, I honestly thought that you guys would underestimate. The truth is, from the research I was able to do, 50 game studios, and this is the list. Now, don't worry about trying to jot a bunch of notes down. We're going to try and get this on the website so that you can access all this information. But I just wanted to kind of see. So good. A lot of you believe that there is a healthy, strong Christian video game industry out there. That's awesome. Okay, so the purpose. I'm going to review the accomplishments for the last year and a half. I'm hoping to provide some encouragement so that you guys can see, oh, wow, this is really working. There's people that have done this. There are people that are continuing to do this. There are new things coming out. And, wow, that's really encouraging. Also, I'm hoping that this will provide some opportunities for fellowship and collaboration with people that you might not have known. Because some of the people I present are not actually with the organization, or maybe have never heard of us. So it'll be interesting to there might be some new faces, some new titles, some new companies that you haven't known about before. Okay, so I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. There's a lot of ground to cover. Please hold your questions and comments till the end. I do apologize if I make any errors. Please let me know. I want to correct those. I want to make this right, and so that we have an accurate representation of what we've got. So the way I'm going to do this, I'm going to start off with kind of our organizational accomplishments, things organization-wise. The first is we have a conference. God has graced us not only this year, but last year with a wonderful conference. We had it at Concordia University. We were 11 speakers. There's kind of our little group photo that we took last year. This year, of course, we're at Warner Pacific College. So far, it's been great, and hopefully it will continue. God will continue to bless us. There is, on the web, ChristianDev.com has their speed games every year. Last year, there were 14 completed entries. 18 developers participated. I do encourage you to go onto the website, check it out. They've got some amazing games, especially when you consider how little time that they had to make it, a couple of weeks. New online content. Last year started 2 new Facebook groups. We have our CGDC group on Facebook. If you don't know about it, go ahead and do get on that. I think Charlie started that one. We also have the Fireside Chat Edition, which Shem started. And it seems like we have a new website that's in development. I think Dan Prow and Edwin are working on that, so thank you for that. It looks great. We also have some other organizations out there that are kind of for us. I don't think Thomas isn't around, but Radiance, RadianceGameDev.com. Check that out. They have 2 major things. First, they started a podcast. There was 6 podcasts in the first season. I believe the second one is in the planning stages. So if you haven't checked that out, they've got some great podcasts on there that everyone should listen to. In addition to, they held their first conference back in Florida in February. It's kind of an interesting setup. What they do is they form 3-man teams that kind of critique each other's current projects, and it's made specifically for Christian devs. So, also, we're going to talk a little bit more about this organization later on, but the Eden Industries out of Canada has what they call their Garden of Indie initiative. They help independent developers with what they call strategic partnerships. So if you need some help, you might want to check them out. There might be some things they can help you out with. It's worth a look. So that's organizational-wise what we're going to do. The bulk of my presentation is going to be about the individual and studio achievements, and I'm going to kind of break it into three broad categories: released games, newly announced games, and games that are in continuing development. Anybody have any guesses on how many games were released within the last year and a half? Two? No, more than that. 4, I hear. 10.
Parameters, criteria, what's your definition? What's your boundary regulations?
Broad definition.
Christian games specifically.
Christian games specifically. Yes. Yes. Best guess.
I'm going to be optimistic and say
Okay. 28. 28. In addition to that, we have 14 newly announced games that are in addition to the release games. And then in addition to that, we have another 15 in development. So like I said, I'm going to go through this fairly quickly because there is a lot to cover. So let's get started. I'm going to start with the release games. I'm going to do them in chronological order. Let's start with January. Granny's Bible Dojo by Inside Out Studios out of Alabama. It's by John and Andrea Tice. They also have made Verse Hero and Lilypad Hop. It is available on the iOS, so if you have an iPad, you can go ahead and grab that. It's kind of a simple game. It's a Bible order. You've got these boards, and you're supposed to chop the boards up in order so you can learn the order of the Bibles. They also have an ancillary website called ImpressKids.com. It's a Bible memorization service for kids. So that's something you might want to check out. David versus Goliath, Righteous Tales, our own Gerald Hansen out of Washington. It's a 2D interactive adventure game, has complete with voice acting. It utilizes kind of the mobile abilities, the swipe, tilt, tap, as well as it has one main quest with 8 mini games, over 100 achievements. It's available on iOS as well as Android. That came out in February. Game of Destiny. It's kind of a take on the game of life reimagined from an eternal perspective. Rather than collecting money and children, you collect eternal fruit. What it does is it applies Bible verses to life situations like getting married and going to college. Very much follows the game of life. And it was developed specifically for parents to play with their kids, to kind of give it like a talking springboard. Developed by Battle Gear, Jim Battle out of Virginia, and it's available on the iOS. Maggie and Her Magical Glasses came out in April. It's a 2D interactive game that teaches the power of love and the importance of forgiveness. It's from the makers of David and Goliath and Pip's Island, which are other games that they developed. It's from the people at Jumping Pages out of New York. Rania Ajami, I apologize if I pronounced that, available on iOS. Lumina, from our own Elevate Entertainment, Brock Henderson. Not specifically a Christian game, but from one of our Christian developers, so I did want to include it. It's a rhythm game with electronic soundtrack, and deceptively simple, but it's quite interesting to play. He's also made Noah's Memory Match and 8 other apps. They are available on the iOS and Android. We then have The Great Bible Race. It was made out in June of last year by Epic 4D out of Michigan, Melvin Claxton and his crew. It's a 3-in-1 trivia interactive storytelling game. There's 3 different types of trivia games contained within that one. It also even includes 3D stereographic images, so that's something to check out. It's been around for a while. It's available both on Windows and Mac. Bible ABC for Kids by Salvation Story LLC out of California, Joel Carson. It's an alphabet game. The kids trace the letters with their fingers, and it kind of is associated with a certain biblical character. So like A is for Adam, that kind of thing. Available on iOS and Android. Reborn Crosswords from Reborn Entertainment out of Montana. Typical crossword app from a Christian perspective. The puzzles change monthly. It can be customized, shared, has different difficulty levels and Twitter and Facebook integration. It is available on iOS. Kids Bible Quiz from 29th Street Studio and in association with Nazarene Publishing House out of Missouri. Published in September, available on iOS. It's basically 20 lesson Bible memorization games that focus on a single book of the Bible at the time. They also created Noah's Ark, David and Goliath, and Moses. So there's quite a few other iOS games available on their website. Moving then to October and kind of another game that's from a Christian developer, Seraphic Media. Timothy and Brooke Brent created Gravity Connected Worlds. It's kind of an arcade game that explores the interaction of orbits and gravities and using a click interface. It's deceptively simple, but it's fun. And it was originally created as a Ludum Dare challenge. Available on Android. Through the Shadows, Darkness Revealed. It is from True Light Games out of Georgia. Michael Angel, he had a successful Kickstarter in which he raised over $1,500, 34 backers. It's a 3D episodic adventure game, focuses on exploring Bible-based puzzle solving. I think it was even made in Unity, and it's available on Steam. Adventures of Bible Bear by Silly Bear Studios, Ronald and Kara Howard. I think some of you may have seen this one on Facebook if you're part of the CGDC group. It's a 2D educational adventure game covering all 66 books of the Bible, starting with Genesis. They're going to kind of do it episodically. 4 to 6 books to read at a time, containing 25 unique activities each. Their original Kickstarter was unsuccessful, but despite that setback, they were able to release, and they're continuing to move on. So be encouraged, even if your funding doesn't originally work out, keep going, because there is a way to move forward. Available on iOS. Fish Protector, the latest release from Looky Lamb. Looky Lamb has a website on the internet, so you can play the game both on the internet and via a mobile app for iOS and Android. It's the latest of over a dozen games for kids. It includes videos, lessons, and quotes on their website, and it's really fun. You can check it out. We're going to now move into January of this year. Fortis Rex, Rise of the King by Ancient Realms Studio out of Mississippi. It's a third-person RPG about liberating the world of Rex from the forces of hell. It's right now, it's in its second alpha. It's available on Desura, kind of an alternative to Steam. It is listed on Steam Greenlight as a concept, and it was originally funded in Kickstarter by 166 backers with over $7,000 in funding. It looks like a very interesting one, kind of a unique RPG, and it seems to be doing pretty well. Let's see. Oops, it's thinking. There we go. Quibble, Quiz of the Bible by Kingdom Games. We're going to come back to Kingdom Games later in the presentation, but this is the one that they released at the end of 2014. It's basically a Bible trivia game with 4 different difficulty levels. It features multiple Bible translations and can be played timed or untimed. They have a charity mode. If you play it, then you can help the portion of the proceeds goes to charity every time you play. And the company did acquire another one, Four Soils, a child's Bible app provider. It's available via iOS and Android. Citizens of Earth, one of the few games released on console, Christian game. It's a 2D RPG recruitment game in the vein of Pokemon. You play as the vice president of the world, and it has a unique action system which replaces the usual combat. They also have another game they created called Waveform. It's an action puzzle game. This is Eden Industries. They were the ones that created the Garden of Indie. So you should check that out, Ryan Vanderdyk. Stained Glass by Light Side Games. We're now in January of this year. Brent Dusing, I hope I pronounced that correctly. It's a match-3 game where you collect broken pieces and assemble a stained glass picture. You do that all while immersing yourself in a biblical story that goes along with it. They have several other offerings. Creators Journey of Moses, The Journey of Jesus, The Calling, and Noah's Ark. February of this year, Echo Dawn was released by Neil, who's been to the CGC before. It's a 2D style RPG that features 50 game levels, 7 unique classes, and 3 difficulty levels. It looks pretty neat. I played it myself. It's pretty awesome. It is available on iOS. Captain Pete's Treasure Hunt by Chelly Telly. It's if any of you know VeggieTales, Phil Vishner is the one who created VeggieTales. He's since gone on to create Jelly Telly as well as Jellyfish Labs, and he puts out a number of different Christian apps and Christian games. This one in particular, the first of 3 that came out this year, is of course Captain Pete's Treasure Hunt. You're collecting pearls of wisdom with Captain Pete as you learn Bible verses. It's quite fun. It is available not only on iOS, but you can play it on the web. Secondly, and from the same organization, is Memory Mountain. It's you memorize 10 Bible verses that span the Old and New Testament. You can challenge other players to a timed competition, and again, it is available on iOS or on the web. Turning now to Texas, Planet 316, their latest offering is Charlie Church Mouse 3D Bible Adventures. It's a game that's set in a theme park. Play involves Bible verses uncovering 9 different Bible stories. It's quite unique. They have other titles as well, including King Solomon's World Challenge, Bible Gems, as well as Super Bible Trivia. It is available on Windows as well as Mac. Noah's Ark for Kids, Park the Ark by Truth Gaming LLC out of Washington. Brian Cost. It's a 2D tilt screen adventure. You're trying to navigate Noah's Ark to Mount Ararat. It's available on iOS as well as Android and Kindle. That came out this March. April, the third offering from Jelly Telly is Armor of God, Armor Up. You collect all the pieces of the Armor of God, and it is a 2D adventure, again available on iOS and on the internet. Pearls of Man from Vertigo Games. Now, Vertigo Games were the creator of the Adam's Venture series. This is their latest offering. It involves destiny, family secrets, touch of time travel, and kind of relates all of fate and choices. It is available on Steam, so I recommend you check that one out. Finally, not a game, but a movie about a game. One of the well-known games, That Dragon Cancer. This is a documentary about the creation of that, and it just came out in April. I believe it premiered at the Tribeca Film Festival. Ryan and Amy are in the center, and the filmmakers are on the sides. Going back to games, Super 3D Noah's Ark. This originally came out, I believe, as an SNES game. It's been ported to the PC. It is available on Steam, amazingly enough. And there are rumors, believe it or not, of multiplayer. There'll be multiple people playing Noah, and you can make each other go to sleep by slingshotting feed at each other. So that should be interesting. We'll look forward to that. Guardians of Ancora is the last one to just recently come out by Scription Union in California. It's a side-scrolling action-adventure, tasks the player recovering of the city's stolen light. It features customizable guardians, load screens, as well as the ability to create and share prayers with the community. Available on iOS and Android. Now I'm going to cheat a little bit. Some almost released games. We have G Prime coming out. Our own Chris Skaggs. I don't think he took off. Steampunk stylized organized reconnaissance game. I don't know if did he demo that yesterday? Yeah, perfect, great. So you all know about it. The last one, almost released, Whole Armor Run by Alpha B. It was out of Tennessee. Charlena Smith Dixon. Should be coming out this fall. It follows Paul, who sends a letter to the soldiers of the cross, commanding them to prepare for spiritual warfare. It's a runner, so you have to find all the spiritual armor while racing across the ancient city of Ephesus, due to come out on iOS this fall. So those, breathtakingly, are all of the released games. I'm going to quickly go now into the announced games, and this time I'm going to do it in alphabetical order. Adam's Venture, Origins. Sedesco is now rebooting the original Adam's Venture series. They purchased the IP from Vertigo Games this April, and so I'm kind of looking forward to see that and see what they make of that. Archmage Rises, Thomas Henschel, his newest creation. I think I actually demoed that as well last night, so you all know that one. We're looking forward to that one for sure. Bible video game David from the Tornado Twins. By Ruben and, I'm going to muddle the name, Ruben and Ephraim Mullenberg. They did a successful Kickstarter in November of 2014, raised over $47,000 with 916 backers. It should be amazing. From what I've seen so far, it's going to be pretty good. Looking forward to that one. Big Boy, Little Boy by our own Edwin Jack was announced. Looking forward to this one. It's going to be kind of explore the intersection of animation and martial arts, which is one of his favorites. Interesting storyline, a slave fighting against masters in a broken world. I am really looking forward to this one, and we should hear about this more hopefully next conference. Buddy Quest by the Life Tree family in Colorado. It's a mobile game aimed at teaching children over 30 virtues both in the game world and real life. Unfortunately, I didn't find out about this one until the last day of its Kickstarter. Otherwise, I would have put that out there for you to all see. It's a really great, interesting game. I encourage you to check out the Kickstarter on this one, and it'll tell you all about it. 5, Guardians of David by Kingdom Games. This is Kingdom Games was the one that released previously by James Parkman. It's a single-player action RPG due out in fall. Some interesting quotes: "Show your faith, and it will be rewarded, but with miracles, blessings, and prayers in the game." So that's kind of an interesting game feature, as well as learning from historical and biblical catches scattered throughout the adventure. So I'm looking forward to this one, seeing how this one turns out. The Guardian of Eden, A Dragon's Dream by Peter Vanoy Jr. out of Virginia. He's creating a 2D character action game with a redemption story. It did successfully fund on Indiegogo in May of this year, raised over $6,000, backed by over 100 people. It looks interesting from what I've seen on the website, so something to check out as well. Kings of Israel video game. Now, if any of you know, Kings of Israel is a board game. This is being ported onto the PC. I know that they successfully got funding for their, I believe it was the board game in 2013, raised over $32,000. It should be interesting. It's a well-known, well-played board game, so it has a successful fan base, and I'm looking to see how they kind of turn that into a video game. Noah's Bunny Problem by Salvation LLC. It's cute. It's a mobile point and click. Basically, the bunnies start at the top and they kind of go down, and Noah has to go and kind of interfere with them and keep them from jumping off into one of 4 life preservers at the bottom. If they all 4 of the life preservers or life floats get filled up, then that's the end of the game, at least for that one. So, kind of interesting, fun. Pantheon, Rise of the Falling. I do know that a couple of our devs have worked on this one. Yeah, there we go. I believe it's still in pre-alpha. I know it's kind of a fantasy adventure. I don't know too much about it yet, but we'll be keeping an eye on that one. Project Atlantis by Trindam Studios out of New York, Richard Lee. He just posted something on Facebook about this. Essentially, it's a side-scrolling 2D adventure RPG set in a pirate-themed world. Involves exploration and with unique randomly generated islands. So that should be interesting. It has a very interesting narrative. You're following the light, essentially. Redwall, Warrior Reborn. That's coming out by our own Soma Games. A lot of you know about this one, of course. It's an adventure game set in the Redwall universe. I do know that Chris put out a post about how he recently got funding from an investor that's very important. They did have a successful, previously, a Kickstarter for, I think it's Abbeycraft in Minecraft. And they're using Intel RealSense, so they're kind of up to date there on the technology that they're using for this one. Salus, Nations and Tribes by Truth Gaming out of Washington. It's an RTS MMO. It's now open for beta signups, so if you're interested in playing the game, go to their website. I believe you can sign up and take an advanced look at the game. Finally, Unreasonable Forgiveness, offering by Kenneth Mendoza out of Messiah Studios from Arizona. It's still early in production. It's pre-alpha. It is a redemption story. I think they've got the story fleshed out, but they're still working on the gameplay. So that is our announced games. We're going to continue on with their active games, the ones that are still continuing in development. Alphabetical by Studio 9 this time. Starting with 4-8 games. Soul Sword RPG by Daniel Stewart and Company. It's a mobile puzzle battle game in the works, and he is, by the way, looking for a mobile developer and character artist if anybody's interested. Blue Mana Entertainment, also known as Save Games Incorporated, out of Florida. I've been working on Heroes and Ishtar for a while. It's a city builder, FPS hybrid. You play as a Christian missionary in a land filled with evil. and you're trying to find your sister and return her home. Now, this was an interesting one. It's not specifically a Christian game. It does have a lot of Christian themes in it. So I included it just for your information, so you can kind of check that one out. Brainbit Studios, also Crash Gem LLC, making Cherbils, which is a turn-based featuring RPG featuring co-op battles. Initial release is planned for Windows and Mac. It's going to have episodic content after its initial release. It was successfully funded in November of 2013, a while back, and they've raised over $28,000 by 662 backers. So that will be an interesting one to check out as well. My own offering, Character Quest, I mentioned it a little bit before. I'm still continuing to work on that. One of the big projects I'm working on right now is porting it to a later version of Unity 3D from the 3.5 version I've got it in now. Cross-platform. This is an interesting one. They don't have an announced title right now. They're working on a physics-based wall-climbing, family-friendly action platformer. The thing that was interesting about this is their studio is working out of Zimbabwe. That's interesting. Both of them have their kind of a small website. Just wanted to put that out there so all of us can kind of encourage them to continue in their game, in their efforts. Graceworks Interactive, our own Tim, basically is working on interactive parables. It's, as you know, a 3D adventure game based on the 24 parables of Jesus. They are coming out with a 10th anniversary edition, expected, I believe, this summer, as well as Tim wanted to kind of tease that their current work involves the development of lessons for the first half of one of the Gospels. He didn't say which one, but one of the Gospels, so look forward to that. Cadoo, the RPG from the Graffling Group out of Oregon. Right now, mostly they're focused on book sales, but they do have an RPG in the works based upon the Cadoo Prophecy series. It appears that they use the game to support various charities. So they have like an alpha that they're using. If you sign up for that, you recruit other people, and then somehow that recruitment leads to charitable donations. So that's an interesting one. Heaven's Blessings Tiny Zoo, our own Laureen Wells and her family is working on Visions, as she mentioned before. Looks like the current progress involves the addition of 2 new zones, as well as zone blending, implementation of the new Visions toolbar, as well as implementation of the melee combat. She's been working on it a while, as she said, and really looking forward to seeing more of that. That Dragon Cancer by Media Greenhouse and God at Play, Ryan Green and Josh Larson. It's the wonderful, heartbreaking, loving game of Ryan and Amy's dealing with the loss of their son Joel and the grace associated with that. They did have a great successful Kickstarter. They raised over $100,000. Over 3,500 people backed that. Quite a success, and I know that they're continuing on that, and I'll look forward to seeing that released hopefully within the next year. Release by No Room LLC, Justin Fox out of Kentucky. It's a stylized old-school RPG with Christian themes. He has a demo available that you can check out on his website. He is going to launch a Kickstarter soon, so we'll keep you posted on that. Scarlet City Studios, Aetherlight, Chronicles of Resistance. I know that we've had a video Skype links with them for in previous conferences. So if you're not familiar, it's basically an online action game set in a steampunk world. It's currently in closed beta, so you can play it if you can sign up and play it. And it'll be available on PC and Mac using a membership subscription model. Third Day Games out of Alabama, Bobby Wells. Big Bible Town. It's an MMO that's been around for quite a while now, set in a first century animated world for children K through 6. They also have other games that have been around for a while as well, Bible Champions and Gospel Champions. They're animated 3D action games. Triune Studios, Cedric Wilson's. It's relatively new. It's in pre-alpha. He's creating Sharon's Garden. He's currently working on artwork and model creation using Blender, so look forward to that in the next couple of CGCCs. And finally, last but not least, Yahiro. It's been around for 5 years, an MMO designed for tweens, set in an allegorical biblical world. Features customizable avatars, built-in tutorials. You can chat, you can earn badges. It's quite the thing. It's free to play, so everyone can check it out without any cost. Okay, so that is basically the accomplishments that we've had in our professional work life. But of course, God does not limit himself to just our professional life. He also graces us in our personal and professional life, our personal life. And it's right and well that we acknowledge and celebrate those graces and those gifts as well. So, without further ado, let's also celebrate the birth of Zoe Grace Green in April of last year. The birth of Josh Douglas Larson, October of last year. The birth of Avery Henschel in November of last year. The expected arrival of Matthew Cullen in September, hopefully, of this year. The marriage of Kenneth Mendoza in March of last year. The marriage of Kingsley Stevens to Michelle Ballard in June of last year. He's previously been to our CGDC conference. The marriage of Stephanie Conrad to Michelle Rogers just a couple of days ago. The graduation of Hunter Cofton from the Marines in October of last year. And finally, the graduation of Marcel from Howard Payne University in May of this year. So finally, some quick takeaways. God, I believe, has been working mightily in our industry, and all praises, glory to him. We are definitely not alone. Even though there are many here that are working on Christian games, there are people who are not part of our organization who are also working on games. And so hopefully you're encouraged by that, seeing that God has been working not only in Oregon, but in Alabama and Kentucky and New York and just all over the world, even Zimbabwe. I hope you feel encouraged by that. We have a video game industry. I know that a couple of times I've come and it's been like, well, when are we going to break out? When are we going to get the games? Well, we have the games. The games are here. We have them. They've been made. We have them. They're being made. We have them. They're new games that are being formed. It's just really a matter of organization and collaboration to let Joe and Susie Public know that we have this space. What we really need is promotion and marketing for our games. And with that, that's it. That is, ladies and gentlemen, your year in review.